From making one of the strangest and most disturbing confessions ever made on the show,
eating donuts for me can be described as a sexual experience almost, because it is like, it's so fulfilling.
to struggling to even get out of bed just to go buy more food. Here's how Alicia Kurgan's bizarre confession shaped her journey on My 600-Pound Life. Starting her weight loss journey at a staggering 622 pounds in Season 6, Episode 3 of the show, Alicia was living a terrible life, which even prevented her from eating and living like a normal human being. And this terrible lifestyle became the reason for her dissatisfaction with herself as well as her circumstances.
Because pushing myself out of bed each morning is the hardest part of my day.
However, unlike other patients, Alicia was still active enough to walk around, but even that ability of hers was fading away as a result of her unhealthy choices.
Same time, that's also a fear that one day I will become bedridden.
As a result, her body had started to deteriorate gradually, eventually forcing her limbs to weaken and give in, hindering her restrictive motion even more.
I'm always worried about my ankles giving out and collapsing because my joints and muscles barely sustain my weight. My body has reached a point that I can't even go a few steps without being winded.
Despite all this, Alicia wanted to change, but her insecurities ran deep.
I see myself in a picture or in a mirror. You almost would think, like, shouldn't that be enough to just stop and realize what it is you're doing?
And instead of leaning on therapy or weight loss, she leaned on food, but in ways that went far beyond comfort.
But I get so depressed by it that I go to what is the most comforting, which is food. And as far back as I can remember, food has always been what has consoled me.
Her coping mechanism spiraled into something darker because food wasn't just comfort, it had slowly become an obsession. And the deeper her mental struggles went, the more she clung to her guilty pleasure.
Food makes me so happy that just seeing it and smelling it starts to help me feel better and helps with my anxiety.
But what was more concerning was not her food addiction as a whole, but rather the extreme emotional connection she had developed with her food, especially with sugary treats. Alicia even admitted on camera that she had used donuts in ways most people couldn't even imagine.
It fills a void and emptiness inside me. Eating donuts for me can be described as a sexual experience almost, because it is like, it's so fulfilling and it's satisfying. And to be able to eat and enjoy this alone with nobody watching is the best part of my day.
The bizarre confession did not sit well with the viewers, who shared their astonishment saying, "Food addiction is not a joke, and I couldn't even imagine starting my day with a dozen donuts." This also perfectly indicated how far she had really gone in terms of her eating habits, with her feeding herself with bouts of sugary treats, all while she bloated to death. Alicia, however, did not seem too bothered by this confession and made it seem okay. She was mindful of the condition her body was in and the implications that came with it.
But once I start, I can't stop. And unfortunately, my addiction to food has only gotten worse over the years.
Being in Dr. Now's weight loss program gave Alicia both a platform and an opportunity to share her experience, and also get the help she needed. And her awareness about her body helped her treat this program with a lot more seriousness.
Never in my life did I think this is where I would end up.
However, the truth was that the roots of this obsession went back a long way. Alicia described her family dynamic as rather bizarre compared to other households.
Because it was my mom that worked to support our family of 4, and my dad would go out to the bars drinking. And I felt like my mom was angry and had a lot of resentment towards him. So when he would come home, there was always a lot of fighting. And sometimes it would get loud and violent.
And it was her grandmother who stepped in. But this was the very relationship that planted the seeds for her lifelong fixation with sweets, which would eventually spiral into her most infamous confession.
And when my parents would fight, she would try to distract me with ice cream. And I remember how it made me feel better. And so sugar became the thing in my life with my grandmother that I knew could make me feel better when I was afraid or upset.
This resulted in her catastrophic weight gain, as by the time she was 7, she was already 160 pounds, which many viewers considered not acceptable at all. This, however, did not sit well with her mother, who took a strict path to get Alicia back on track.
My mom began to hear from family and friends that there was something wrong with me, that I have a problem. And she felt like I made her look bad as a mother. So she would scream at me for eating and told me I was getting too fat.
While it was intended to improve her condition, unfortunately, it only made things worse for Alicia, as she started turning to food as a way of getting comfort and solace, eventually reaching a weight that was shocking to the viewers.
So my eating just got worse because I was more depressed and I kept going. And I hit 200 pounds by the time I was 10.
This revelation only snowballed the surprise, with some even criticizing her mother for letting her go so far. Being 200 pounds at 10 should be considered an indicator for the child being abused. Mom buys all the food and has complete control of what is in the house. Soon what had started as a small addiction turned even worse after she experienced the trauma of losing her grandmother to cancer.
My mom was embarrassed by me, and my dad was barely around. And the only person who had loved me was gone.
That loss left a hole in Alicia's life, and instead of coping in healthy ways, she doubled down on the same comforts her grandmother had given her, even if it meant taking things way too far.
And eating not only helped me with the pain, but it made me feel like my grandma was back with me, because that's what we shared together.
This ignorance, however, came with consequences that would affect her health terribly by the time she reached adulthood.
And by the time I was 18, I was over 400 pounds.
To add to the circumstances, she experienced even more troubles in her life, some far more gruesome than she had in her childhood, which only worsened her condition.
At the end of my senior year, a male friend who I had always had a crush on came over and we started messing around. And I eventually told him to stop, and he didn't stop. And he raped me. I felt just really weak and helpless, and also I felt a lot of shame.
The cycle of events continued playing themselves until she reached the breaking point just 2 years later.
And I did what I knew. I ate to deal with the pain. When I was 20, my weight got to over 500 pounds.
This greatly disappointed the viewers, who couldn't help but point it out. This is so sad, but it also amazes me how much the body can take. But while health transformations are one thing, Alicia's life was filled with trauma that prevented her from making a change in herself. However, Alicia did experience some happy moments in her life too, one of them being her getting together with Tim.
And I just wanted to end it. And I think I would have done that. But that's when I met Tim.
Her relationship with Tim blossomed because of his understanding nature and how he accepted her for who she was.
When Alicia and I first met, what I did notice was just her carefree spirit, her laugh, and her size didn't bother me.
However, despite being in a happy relationship, Alicia still wasn't able to recover from her past trauma and kept feeding herself, only adding to Tim's frustration along the way.
Our relationship has grown stagnant. And as time goes on, Alicia doesn't want to do hardly anything at all. She just wants to sit in front of the TV and eat, which really frustrates me because we have a life to live together.
Her self-sufficiency was also taking a different turn when she would do all her grocery shopping and spend all her money on fatty foods, and still complain about her condition as if she weren't to blame for all of this herself.
I hate going to the grocery store, and I have anxiety about being in public because I have a fear of people judging me. And if it wasn't to get food for the rest of the day, then I would literally never go out.
The real danger, though, was her growing obsession with sweets. Day by day, it spiraled to donuts, candy, anything sugary.
But I ignore it all because when I see all this food, especially all the carbs and sweets, it makes me feel happy.
Ultimately reaching a point where she was barely able to ignore her cravings and gave in to the slightest hunger she had. This not only spiraled her weight, but also made her lose her self-control, making her give in to her addiction every chance she got.
I know I'm eating a lot, but my hunger never goes away. And once I crave something, I have to have it.
All of this affected both her and Tim, with Tim getting disappointed over her changing habits and voicing out his concerns for her.
It's been frustrating watching Alicia gain weight over the years. What she was able to do a year ago, she definitely can't do now.
Even Alicia knew where she was headed, but it wasn't just about losing weight. It was about breaking free from the hold Sweets had on her. And while they agreed to work through it together, the truth was, Tim was competing with cravings that sometimes felt stronger than love itself, which was becoming a barrier in their relationship.
My addiction has taken over my life and my relationship with Tim. And it has to be hard for him to know that at this size, I may not have much longer. And I can't bear the thought of leaving him, but I am killing myself, and I can't stop it.
At Dr. Now's clinic, however, Alicia finally got the reality check she needed, with her finally getting her starting weight, unsurprisingly extremely high for her body and health. Even Alicia realized that all these years of eating unhealthy treats had finally caught up with her, and she felt really embarrassed by her situation.
Seeing that number on the scale, it's hard. I mean, it's definitely not a number that I'm proud of, and it's embarrassing and feels shameful to have let it get that bad.
However, Dr. Now had even greater concerns for her health, considering she had let her body go too far and was closer to the breaking point.
So 600 pounds on a person at your height is comparable to being over 800 pounds for a person of average height.
Wow.
So that's a lot of weight on your body.
This greatly shocked the viewers, who couldn't help but sharing their disbelief about Alicia's habits and her extreme craving for sugar. Why do they let themselves get so far before they do something? They realize they have a problem at 300, 400, or 500 pounds, but didn't do anything. Dr. Now also tried to make her realize the complexity of the situation she was in, considering that even though Alicia was extremely self-aware about her weight, she still lacked the necessary motivation and the discipline to make things work for herself in terms of her health.
So you have to know that you're not going to last like this.
I know. I don't imagine I would be able to make it to 40.
Well, I have to agree with you.
On top of that, he also gave her a strict goal to follow.
You eat late at night and you eat a lot of high-calorie food.
Yeah.
So Alicia, this is what we're going to do. I'm giving you 1,200 calorie, high protein, low carb diet with list of food you can eat and food you can't.
Okay.
No sweets, no sugary drink, and I want you to lose 50 pounds over the next month.
And gave her two choices. Either choose between her extreme lifestyle that would eventually lead to her death, or follow the plan and turn her life around for the better. He also made it clear that he would only be proceeding with surgery if she shows the dedication to make things better for herself and prove it to Dr. Now that she's capable of change.
Okay? Then I'll approve you for weight loss surgery.
Okay.
Which Alicia took as a challenge, and with the support of her boyfriend, she was more determined than ever to make things move and finally be able to live like a normal human being.
And it's gonna be a challenge, but I also know that I have to make changes because I can't continue to live like this.
People really loved seeing this change in her and started rooting for her quick transformation. I'm praying she makes it and loses the weight. Back home, Alicia finally started fighting her battle with addiction, this time choosing a much healthier routine than before. She was finally letting go of that one addiction that had made her a topic of debate and one of the most bizarre cases on the show.
For breakfast, instead of donuts, I'm having a protein shake. The shakes are a good way to control my calories. And I really find that the less I have to kind of think about it, the easier it is to do it without making an excuse to cheat or to give in.
The only thing she was still struggling with, however, was her discipline, considering her lifestyle had experienced a major transformation, and it was hard for her to cope with the added pressure of letting go of the only thing that comforted her.
And not snacking has been really hard, but the hardest part is getting out of your own head.
She actively voiced out her struggles during this phase, but still made sure to stick to her diet and not let the cravings get the best of her and ruin her progress.
I thought I knew how hard this was going to be, but I had no idea. I'm ashamed of how much I miss food, and the shame makes me feel even worse.
Alicia, however, still managed to push herself even more, sticking entirely to her protein shake diet and making the most of her opportunity, even reducing the size of her meals to better fit her caloric goals. However, the period of time came with a lot of troubles for her, one of them being her strained relationship with Tim, which was being affected as a result of Alicia focusing more on her diet and less on her relationship. Tim, even though happy for her to be finally focusing on her goal, felt left out and ignored, something he wasn't ready to face, considering it meant spending less quality time with Alicia.
I would describe Alicia and I's relationship at this stage of the game as strained. I was hoping this would bring us closer, but right now it feels like we're more drifting apart than getting closer.
And although he was actively finding out ways to make things better with Alicia, he thought it would be better to voice out his own feelings and have a heart-to-heart with her.
I hate to see you being distant from me, is I'm not used to that.
I mean, in all honesty, right now, really have to be focused on myself.
Unlike his disappointment with their failing relationship, Tim was excited to see Alicia get the transformation she always wanted and was more than ready to lend a hand to her no matter what.
If Dr. Now takes me on as a patient, would you be excited?
Yeah, I'm excited to see you get healthy and be able to do all the different things that you want to do and what we want to do together. What would you like to do with me?
Which was deeply appreciated by fans who loved the way Tim was supporting Alicia through all of this. I just love Tim. He's the most loving and supportive partner I think I have ever seen. You can tell he has genuine love for her. However, Alicia was more concerned about her own image, a stark contrast to what Tim had been looking forward to with her.
I mean, basically it just comes down to like being able to go out and feel comfortable being around people and not worried about what people are thinking or saying about me, and just feeling comfortable really in my own skin. And
this made her a target of criticism yet again. I couldn't live with someone who put eating above everything, including our relationship. She would prove the criticism right on her next appointment with Dr. Now, just a month after her initial appointment. While Alicia was initially skeptical about accomplishing the weight before her weigh-in,
I'm worried what number I'm gonna see on the scale. What if I didn't lose 50 pounds and he doesn't approve me today?
she confirmed her worst fears when, instead of 50 pounds Dr. Now had expected, she had lost only 18, with her weight dropping down to 604 pounds. And while this revelation was shocking for the viewers, they only blamed Alicia for letting her cravings decide the trajectory of her life. Do not feel sorry for these people who know what they are doing and refuse to do anything about it. However, unlike the viewers' thoughts, Alicia believed she had done better than that and couldn't believe it when she saw the weight show up on the scale.
The goal was 50, so to not reach it is a little disheartening. So I'm just really nervous and anxious about what the doctor will say about missing the goal, but I definitely tried my hardest.
Following this failure, Dr. Now confronted her about her inability to comply with his instructions, and as a response, Alicia had nothing but a measly excuse to justify her slack off.
So what happened?
I felt like I did really well the first week, but I also felt really depressed after the first week.
So you started the diet, then got depressed. So you did what makes you feel happy and started overeating again, huh?
Alicia once again tried to convince Dr. Now that she had been working hard, insisting her setbacks were only due to occasional emotional episodes that made her compromise her diet. However, even the diet she mentioned she followed didn't sit well with Dr. Now.
So to try to cut back on my portions, I started doing a protein shake in the morning and afternoon, and then just having dinner to try to help rein in my portions.
Okay, that wasn't the diet.
Mm-mm.
That was the diet you invented.
After their appointment, Dr. Now expressed his disappointment once again, this time with a lot more seriousness.
It sounds like Alicia couldn't even go a week without running to food. So she needs to try again to hit her goal. And I want her to maintain positive progress for 2 months to show me she's willing and able to control herself.
And canceling her weight loss surgery because she failed to comply with the standard goal.
So you're not approved for weight loss surgery at this point, but this is what I want you to do. I want you to lose 70 pounds over the next 2 months.
However, Alicia did not back down. Rather, she was even more determined to make things easier for herself and took Dr. Now's remarks as a way to try to transform her life once again. She would start with her new lifestyle as soon as she got home, trying to mold herself into a healthier and far convenient lifestyle than she had previously.
And it's been good not having my usual routine of places that really triggered my hunger. So there's a lot less temptation here. But I still worry that I'm not going to meet the goal Dr. Now set at my last visit.
But even though she claimed she was following Dr. Now's diet, she was far from seeing the results because of her own slip-ups. Another habit Alicia couldn't shake was changing Dr. Now's diet plan to fit her own cravings. Instead of following it strictly, she tweaked it and made it easier on herself, which at the end made it useless.
I know Dr. Now wants me to eat 3 times a day, but I usually skip breakfast. I would prefer a larger meal at dinner because if I feel fuller at night, then it helps me to not feel the need to snack.
Even Tim called her out for her ways of bending Dr. Now's diet, but Alicia had no answer to his questions.
Alicia gets really upset when I try to talk to her about these things.
But I'm going to tell her if I think that she's not doing the right things, even if it does hurt her feelings.
As expected, her methods would all be busted once again on her next follow-up appointment with Dr. Now. Alicia was hopeful of her progress, considering she believed she had followed her diet perfectly.
Dr. Now said I needed to lose 70 pounds over these past 2 months to get down to 534 today. All I want is to hear Dr. Now say, "You're approved, and here's your surgery date."
But her optimism would soon go down in the dumps after she went for the actual weigh-in and got a shocking outcome yet again. Despite her initial goal of losing 70 pounds in 2 months set strictly by Dr. Now, she only managed to lose 14 pounds, slimming down to only 590 pounds, much to her and the viewers' disappointment. It was clear that this was not something she had expected, as she would express her frustration immediately after her weigh-in.
It feels frustrating to not reach the goal, and definitely to not reach it by so much.
As expected, Dr. Now was not happy with the results, and he confronted Alicia about her lack of taking responsibility.
How y'all doing?
Good, how are you?
All right, so you had 2 months this time, and you did worse. You only lost 14 pounds.
To which she would prove her progress with a weak justification.
With the move, I think I gave myself kind of some excuses that the packing and the moving was enough exercise.
But Dr. Now was far from buying her excuses and would not let this one slide. Given her history of extremely unhealthy food choices and her view on them, Dr. Now tried to make her understand the consequences of her actions if she were to continue the way she did.
Well, having things going on is called life. There is always going to be stress and a lot of things going on. And if you're waiting for all that to go away, then you're never going to make any progress.
Fairly enough, Alicia was also mindful of her occasional slip-ups and her lack of accountability when it came to eating food, and she was very vocal about it.
I think that I still sometimes in my mind feel like I need more than I do. Like my mind is still telling me like that's not enough food.
But it still did not convince Dr. Now that she'd do any better, considering she was already cheating on her diet and consuming large amounts of food every day.
She's still at least taking in 6,000 to 8,000 calories.
The appointment ended with Dr. Now giving Alicia a final goal that would determine her place in the weight loss program.
I want you to hit your goal of losing 45 pounds over the next month. If you want to get approved for weight loss surgery, this is your chance, Alicia.
But he was still not sure if Alicia would follow the diet the right way, considering her emotional dependence on food and the bad food choices she made.
Problem is that Alicia is still using food to deal with stress and for comfort, and is showing no willingness to give that up or change that dynamic.
Alicia was also disappointed with her progress and was not sure if things would go the right way for her. To give her more support, Dr. Now also arranged a dietitian for her to help manage her eating habits even better.
Some of the definite things we need to stay away from. Mayonnaise, calories is 100, calories from fat is 100.
This made a huge difference in her progress and for her to understand what kind of food she was consuming before, which led her to this state, and ultimately helped her on her next appointment with Dr. Now, where she exceeded her weight loss goal by a huge amount, shedding over 52 pounds instead of her goal of 45 in a month, thinning down to 538 pounds.
I can't believe I finally did it. It feels so good to finally meet the goal that Dr. Now set for me. I feel like I had a really good weight loss, and I'm just excited to see what he has to say, and I just hope that this is finally enough to get me approved for surgery.
Dr. Now was really happy to see this change in Alicia and praised her for her dedication.
So you're down to 538 today. You finally met a goal and lost a significant amount of weight.
Yes.
And finally said what she had been waiting for almost half a year.
But you've shown me a willingness to do some of that hard work. So I'm approving you for weight loss surgery today. Congratulations. I'm proud of you.
You know you're doing well when Dr. Now tells you he's proud of you. Even the viewers loved the progress Alicia made and appreciated her determination this time. Now that she was finally making the efforts she was supposed to make, Alicia was not only able to get her weight loss surgery, but she was also able to reduce a significant amount of weight in the next few months. However, the real trouble came after her weight loss surgery, when she started slowing down with her progress yet again. This time only losing 2 pounds despite being told to be on a calorie deficit. Dr. Now was especially unhappy about this progress and reprimanded her about it.
So here's the situation. You had weight loss surgery to change your life and get your weight down to ideal body weight, but you're still not losing any weight. So what are you doing to turn this situation around? Because right now, it's clearly not working.
But according to her, she was doing all what was necessary for her. This made Dr. Now question Tim's attitude as her enabler.
Tim starts to speak for you. And what we call that is misdirection, not speculation. And it is a form of control because he doesn't want any of the issues you're dealing with to be him. Some people live with people that emotionally enable you. I can see that he's emotionally enabling you, giving you all the excuse that you need to fail.
And even pointed him out for sabotaging her progress by causing an emotional trigger in her.
Because what Tim wants is for you to stay dependent on him. And ultimately, the best way to do that is to manipulate you and to make you into a failure with your weight loss surgery.
However, instead of taking offense, both of them decided to try and do even better, ultimately succeeding in their goals after Alicia made significant progress in her journey, losing a total of 366 pounds in the 2 years of being in the program.
Alicia, you down to 256.
Yeah.
That's great. You lost 39 pounds in 2 months, so it looked like you're back on track.
Yeah.
And this is the lowest you have been for a long time, right?
Yeah, I think probably at least middle school, if not grade school.
Wow.
Although fans celebrated this win, Alicia's journey remains unforgettable not only for her weight loss, but also for her strange confession that stunned viewers.